I'll give you 2 minutes. Heterozygous, homozygous, gene, allele, character, trait, ये सारे terms, ये सारे concepts आया समझ में? पक्का? Yes. Now, if you are able to understand this few terms, so what are some 4 pairs of terms you will have to understand. So, what are those 4 pairs of terms? पहले homozygous and heterozygous. Okay, that is the first concept to understand. If you are able to understand what is homozygous, heterozygous, then I talk about the next pair of terms, a dominant allele and a recessive allele. The third pair of terms, genes and alleles. The fourth pair of terms, characters and traits. And the fifth pair of terms that we are going to talk about, the fifth pair is, we talk about 2 more words here, that is phenotype and genotype. Let us talk about this. So how many pairs of terms I've been talking about? I am talking about, take a note, this set of words you should know. I talk about heterozygous and homozygous. I said you should know, you should be very clear what is the meaning of this. Second, I said what is the meaning of a dominant allele and a recessive allele. Dominant allele and recessive allele. What is the meaning? You should be clear. Third, I said what is the difference? What is the difference between gene and allele? Next is character and traits. And now let us talk about the last set of words, phenotype and genotype. What is the meaning? Let us come across. Phenotype and genotype. What is the meaning of this word? Phenotype means the brown color that we can see in an individual. The blue color that we can see in an individual's eye. We can see that. The curly texture of the hair we can see. The whitish skin color we can see. The tallness we can see. And the shortness we can see. In a plant, I can very much talk about certain features prominent. Now I can talk about in a plant. For example, in a plant, the yellow color of the petals very clear to understand. The white color of the petals very clear to understand. The broad shape of the leaf very clear to understand. The needle shaped leaf very clear to understand. So features that we are able to see in a plant, in an animal, that is what is known as phenotype. For example, I was talking about this example. From this example, let me pick up. Phenotype, I would say, phenotype, let us talk about the brown color as the phenotype. But why this phenotype? Because the alleles are present either this way or this way or this way. So for a person who is brown color eye, a person who has brown color eye can have this arrangement of alleles or this arrangement of alleles or this arrangement of allele. Whatever be the arrangement of allele, the person's eye color is brown, and that is the reason we are understanding that this type of brown color is so prevalent, so common in a population. This arrangement of alleles that we write in the form of letters, in the form of some couple of letters that we write, this is what is known as genotype. So this form of letters that we talk about, that is what is known as genotype. Clear? Then what is the definition of the word genotype? Genotype means the pair of alleles for a gene. The pair of allele for a gene that an individual has. The expression of a gene that an individual shows. Whatever it is, it will express in some form, no? That expression is known as the phenotype. Right on the definition? Phenotype. What is the definition of the word phenotype? What is the definition of the word genotype? How do we write genotype? How do we write phenotype? For the first one, phenotype, the visual expression. Phenotype. What is the meaning of the word phenotype? The visual expression of a gene. Can be seen. The visual expression of a gene is known as phenotype. The visual expression of a gene is known as phenotype. Visual expression of a gene is known as phenotype. The other side, genotype. The pair of alleles. Genotype. Likho. Genotype. Check the spellings. Genotype. The pair of alleles for a gene. Pair of alleles for a gene. So this is one genotype. This is one genotype. This is one genotype. Can we see the genotype of an individual? Pair of alleles for a gene. Pair of alleles for a gene in the pair of chromosome. Pair of alleles for a gene in the pair of chromosome that decides the phenotype. That decides the phenotype. That decides the phenotype is known as. That decides the phenotype is known as the genotype. Check here. Genotype is always written in the form of letters or numbers. Phenotype kaise? In words. Phenotype is always in words. Genotype is always in letters or numbers. Now, once you are aware about all these words, the meaning, the definition, now we'll have to move on to the next part of the chapter, trying to understand the concept of Mendel's laws. Talking about the concept of Mendel's laws, what are we trying to understand here? We are talking about a famous biologist known as Gregor Johann Mendel. एग्जाम में ये मेंडल को मेंडलीव मत बना दो, मेंडलीव डिफरेंट है ना. So now we are talking about Gregor Johann Mendel. Who is he? He is a famous biologist. What did he experiment on? He had experimented on the garden pea plants. He had experimented on the garden pea plants. What is the biological name of the garden pea plants? All of you will write this down. The garden pea biological name is Pisum sativum. This has to be written this way. What is the rule of writing this? You don't write in this form. Half marks will be deducted for your answer. Why? Because biological names, whenever written, this is a concept of binomial nomenclature. Biological names लिखने का एक particular format होता है where the first letter of the generic name should be capital. The first letter of the specific name should be a lowercase letter. And since we are not able to write in italics, so इसीलिए we have to underline. We have to underline them like this. Clear है? So yes. पीछे जाना है. एक और चॉकलेट चाहिए. तो अभी देखो. हाँ? बुक में देख रहे हो? क्या देख रहे हो? नूडल्स और कुछ तो दिख रहा है. बैग में. Now, when we are talking about, I said, name the experimental plants. Name the plants on which Gregor Johann Mendel had performed his experiments. What is the answer? Common name. Common name पूछा तो ये लिखना है. Scientific name पूछा तो ये लिखना है. As per the question. Write down the scientific name. Pisum sativum. P-I-S-U-M. S-A-T-I-V-U-M. Now, what are the reasons? Now, if I just give you a brief idea that what are the reasons for this experiment, why Mendel had selected this and why did Mendel go for all this experiment, a brief concept to understand. Mendel, Gregor Johann Mendel that I'm talking about, he was a monk. Monk कौन होता है? Who is a monk? Huh? Who is very simple like Buddhism they follow. The priests of the monasteries. So now he was a monk And in his monastery, every time he used to see certain type of plants growing, he was very much interested in growing plants. But one such type of a plant grabbed his attention. Why? Because unlike the other plants, this type of plants he saw at times gave one type of a color of a flower and at times something else. The shape of the seeds, it is pea plant I am talking about. No, so most of you must not have seen the pea flower. Pea plant has got nice flowers. So the flowers are basically purple color, dark pink colored. So he observed that sometimes the flowers are pink, sometimes why white. He saw the seeds, sometimes yellow, why sometimes green. So likewise, he had observed in these plants certain characteristics he studied. Accordingly, we are going to study those 7 characteristics. So every time he was observing that the 7 characteristics, sometimes this, sometimes that, sometimes this, sometimes that, he was observing. For example, roses, if I say the roses, the flower is always pink and always pink and always pink. Do we ever see the rose plant sometimes giving the pink color and in the next week or in 2 weeks time when the next set of flowers grow, in that same plant, did we ever observe if it is a pink colored rose plant, one set of flowers grow all pink. In another fortnight or 2-3 weeks later, when these flowers die off and another set of flowers grow, is it possible now that the flowers automatically will be yellow or white? No, it will be pink and pink and pink. That was not here what he observed. He observed one set of flowers gave pink, the next set of flowers gave white. Sometimes the seeds were yellow, sometimes the seeds were green, and various other features he had observed. So that more or less grabbed his attention and he tried experimenting on them. So he started growing these plants, and in very short period of time, new generation plants were obtained, and he could study their characteristics every time. And after studying their characteristics for a long period of time, for years, some 5-6 years, he more or less could generalize certain law. He could generalize certain theories, and later it was put forward by many other biologists that whatever theories he had put forward is not only for the pea plant, it was applicable for all other animals and even human. Till today, when we are talking about so many concepts of genetics, though Mendel had explained only on the pea plants, I'll just talk about this right now. Though Mendel had tried experimenting only on the pea plant, but the theories that he had put forward is true even for human, the most complex group of organisms. Concept human can be such a, but with exceptions, some exceptions, so definitely here. So we are going to talk about that what are the reasons that why Mendel had selected the pea plants for his experiments. Number one, the first reason is the lifespan of these plants very short. The lifespan of the pea plants were very short. Now, can you tell me why lifespan short is a good reason for plants to be experimented with? Lifespan short से क्या होगा?
In a small period of time, we get to see different
many generations of plants. Correct. So अगर lifespan, did we ever hear experiments on the banyan tree? कभी नहीं शायद. Very rare. क्यों? Because banyan tree, the lifespan of a banyan tree is even more than human. So definitely not possible. The next generation banyan tree, a person will not be alive only to check. So when we are talking about how come this particular plant is so good for an experimental purpose, because the span is so short, so maybe in a year, 2-3 generations of plants the scientists can observe, and very easy to come to a conclusion then definitely. Okay, lifespan is very short. Number two, they are self-pollinating plants. They are self-pollinating plants. So now, when we are talking about self-pollinating, do you have any idea of self-pollination किसे कहते हैं? Did you ever study the concepts of pollination पहले?
Asexual difference.
नहीं. नहीं. Pollination पढ़ा कभी पहले? हाँ, correct. Pollen grains. Now that I speak on self-pollination, for example, say suppose I talk about a plant, and these are the flowers of this plant. So, two flowers, same plant. This plant has got the male parts, pollen grains, and female part भी है, stigma, style, ovary वो भी है. So, if the pollen of this flower falls on the same flower, the stigma of the same flower, if the pollen of this flower falls on the stigma of the same flower, or the pollen of this falls on the stigma of the other flower but of the same plant, अगर ऐसा है, this process will be known as self-pollination. मतलब majorly we always understand अगर self-pollinating अगर एक plant है, flowers would generally have both the male and the female parts, bisexual flowers. Okay, so try understanding this concept. Now that I'm speaking on it, you should understand self-pollinating का मतलब क्या है. Self-pollinating here means these flowers are basic bisexual flowers है. The pea flowers are bisexual flowers, so they can undergo the process of reproduction, fertilization. But they can also be artificially cross-pollinated. They can also be artificially cross-pollinated. Now, what is cross-pollination? So, they can also be artificially cross-pollinated. So, cross-pollination का मतलब क्या है? This is one plant, and these are the flowers of this plant. These are the flowers of this plant that I come across. So, when the pollen of this flower falls on the stigma of this plant, this is plant A, this is plant B, this process will be known as cross-pollination. When the pollination is between two plants, उसको बोलेंगे cross. When the pollination is happening within the same plant, उसको बोलेंगे self. So cross-pollination is actually very good a method for making new varieties of plants. Definitely, no. Two types of plants, their characteristics are getting mixed. So definitely. So now that we are talking about what are some of the most common reasons I've been talking about? What are some of the reasons? You get this for 2-mark questions. What are some of the reasons why Mendel had selected the pea plants? Lifespan short hai. They are self-pollinating, but cross-pollination भी artificially किया जा सकता है. And one of the most important feature, they have 7 pairs of contrasting traits. They have 7 pairs of contrasting traits. Contrasting किसे कहते हैं? Contrast किसे कहते हैं? Opposite, correct. When we are talking about contrasting traits here, we are going to understand what are the contrasting traits. Contrast, the moment we talk about the word contrast, we always understand it is absolutely opposite. Black है तो white होना चाहिए. Contrast है, light orange है तो पूरा dark orange होना चाहिए. If that is what it is, then we understand it is a contrasting feature. So here, the fourth point that I mentioned, 7 pairs of contrasting traits. पहले ये सीखेंगे. What are the 7 pairs of contrasting traits? And this roughly you should know at least some features, some characteristics you should know. So which are the 7 pairs that let us talk about? The 7 pairs of contrasting traits. The contrasting traits, which are the ones opposite traits that we talk about. So we will talk about the characters and the traits. Let us start. This is the character that I talk about. And here I talk about the traits. What is the difference between the word character and traits? I explained you. What do you understand? What did you understand earlier? What was the definition? We had written down also, I think, no? Traits and character. What was the relation? Different types of characters are known as traits, or I say the other way. The alternate forms of a character will be known as traits. So let us talk about the characters now, one after the other, and what about their traits. The first one, we are only talking about the 7 pairs of contrasting traits. The first one is Height of the pea plant. Height of the pea plant. What were the two most common contrasting traits he had observed? Tall, short, dwarf. Short में लिखेंगे dwarf. Tall and dwarf. Second, color of the flower. Second is color of the flower. All of you will note this down in the form of a table. Color of the flower. What are the colors? Purple and white. Purple and white. Third, color of the seed. Color of the seed. Color of the seed is yellow and green. Fourth, color of the pod. Color of the pod. Now, what is the meaning of the word pod? Pod means when we are talking about the pea plants. No, 7. Acha, reasons for selecting 4. Only 4. See here, when we are talking about this, the 7 pairs of contrasting traits. So now when I talk about the pod, yeah, one more thing. This is very common. All of you come across this. Pod किसको बोलते हैं? This is known as the pod, the fleshy leaf-like structure. That is called the pod. Okay. Now that you are writing down, you should understand what you are writing. Now let us talk about the 7 pairs of the contrasting traits. What are the 7 pairs of the contrasting traits? ये zoom कैसे होगा?
Control and the plus of control plus
ना देखो ये सब सिखाना नहीं पड़ता है. अच्छा चलो. Now when we are talking about this, the different type of character, how many I've written down already? Now look into all those characters. You should be able to remember. Height. What are the traits? Tall, dwarf. We'll have to write the letters also. Color of the flower. देखा? Color of the flower purple है. Contrasting क्या है? White. Color of the seed? Yellow and green. Color of the pod? Color of the pod is green. Is most common and yellow sometimes. Next, number 5. Position of the flower. Position of flower. Position of the flower most common is axial, मतलब all throughout the stem, and terminal, meaning at the top of the stem only. Number 6, the shape of the seed. Shape of the seed, we talk about the round seed and sometimes the wrinkled seed. And the 7th one is the shape of the pod. Shape of the pod. What is the shape to write? If it is fleshy green, inflated, but if it is dry, known to be constricted. Let us talk about these 7 pairs now and how to designate them with the help of letters. Now we understand. So first I said, what are the characters? Height. Tall and dwarf. Tall is always designated with capital T. Now see the rule. What is the rule? If tall is designated, what happened? Wrote. Continue. If tall is written with capital T, then what should dwarf be written with? Just the no, just the contrasting letter. Whatever letter we use here, just the contrasting lowercase likhna hota hai. That is the rule. So this would be the letter genotype. Remember, we were talking about the allele, how to write down the alleles. Now, as per that same rule, let us go forward. Also, the 7 ways. What should we write for purple? Capital P. Then what should you write for white?
Small.
W नहीं लिखेंगे, small p. What for this? Capital Y.
Small.
What for this? Small y. Capital G
Small.
and small g. So remember this. Capital A अगर यहाँ है तो small a. Capital R, small r. W नहीं लिखना है. Capital I and small I. So 7 pairs of contrasting traits and how to write them. So once you are aware about these letters and what does these letters mean, then we have to understand the laws. So the 7 pairs of contrasting traits. क्या इसे याद करना है? No.
Like 2 times color.
कैसे? बोलो बोलो.
Nothing.
Color of seed है, pod है. ठीक है? अच्छा. Now shape दो तरह के shapes we are talking about. दो तरह के color we are talking about. इसको ऐसे नहीं कि you have to learn it and memorize. Memorize करने का कोई जरूरत नहीं. Most of it is there in the question paper, but you are sometimes supposed to know which one is dominant. When we do the questions, you will understand. For example, if it is the seed color, in the question it will not be mentioned that the yellow color is dominant over the green. It will be just written that the yellow colored seeded plant is crossed with such and such. So you are supposed to know that the yellow color is dominant over green. ये तुम्हें समझ में आना चाहिए. The action is dominant over dominant. ये थोड़ा सा आना चाहिए. But you don't have to memorize them as such. ये जैसे process जितने examples करोगे, that will as it is be understood. Okay? So पहले ये complete करो. ये table all of you should write it nice and neat. And letters how to signify. कौन से letters क्या mean करता है? Now we have written some with capital letters and some with small letters. Can you tell me why? Just in the previous section we had written capital B, capital B, small b. तो capital T अगर लिखा and यहाँ पे small t लिखा, so what do you understand by that?
They both are in the same category of character.
हाँ वो तो है. Apart from that ये capital और small letter से क्या समझ में आना चाहिए?
Contrasting.
Tallness is dominant and dwarfness is recessive. Green is dominant, yellow is recessive. Purple is dominant, white is recessive. आया समझ में? So why did we write all these capital letters? To understand that these are the dominant traits. And how do we represent the recessive traits? Small letters. Recessive traits always with small letters. Dominant traits always with capital letters. Clear hai? So far is it clear? Right from the beginning, any doubt? Clear hai? Then we now talk about the concept of laws now. Doubt hai?
What is constricted?
Constricted matlab if it is fleshy, सीधे अगर ये fleshy है, then it will look like this. अगर ये fleshy है, then it will look like this. Fleshy green, जो अभी like I showed you one more picture no about the pods, green fleshy. But sometimes you may check also in your homes when your mother must be bringing those seeds. Sometimes in that entire packet there must be just 4 or 5 जिनके outer coat थोड़ा सा yellowish and papery dry रहता है. But the seeds are not dried out. Seeds वही fresh seeds है. But the outer coat is little bit brownish and papery and dry. उसको बोलते हैं constricted. inflated, flesh and nice, fresh and green inflated. Okay, now we move on to the concept of the laws. The biologist who had framed the laws of inheritance, what is his name? Huh? Gregor Johann Mendel. Spelling याद रखना है. Gregor Johann Mendel. The experimental plans, you have to remember the name, and the 4 reasons you have to remember. Now we talk about the laws. How many laws we are going to study? We are going to study 3 laws. The 3 most prominent theories, the 3 most prominent laws that he had put forward. After studying various different concepts here, what is it known as? Laws of inheritance. What is the meaning of inheritance? I told you. Characters that pass from one generation to another. Characters that pass from one generation to another. Let us learn one law, then we will try to understand application in human also. That too. What was the concept? He took certain plants. We will not write this. I will tell you when to write. Now, he took certain plants. What was the basic experiment that Mendel had done? He took some plants tall, crossed them with dwarf. In the first generation, he found all plants tall. So initially, when he was in the starting years of his work, starting months of his work, he felt maybe some mistakes, so he repeats them again, And we are talking about which period? 16th century, nothing to refer, that he was a pioneer in this work. So he was the first person to start this work. So there is nothing that he could refer to understand whether he was right, wrong, kuch nahi tha. So he started again doing the same concept with round seeds and wrinkled seeds, and he found that whenever he does this type of an experiment, the first generation plants all have round seeds. The first generation plants all round seeds, not even a single plant wrinkled seeds. First generation plants all tall, not even a single plant dwarf. Then again he did experiments with some plants with purple flower and white flower, and he observed first generation plants all with purple flowers, white flowers, not a single plant. So after so many such experiments, he was very much convinced that the factors of this plant, this parent plant, so he was talking about the concept of factors. He said that the factors of this plant very well went on, passed on to the next generation, and it is expressed. Is it not the factors of this plant also inherited? Should be, because this plant is formed by the combination of chromosomes of these 2 plants. I'll explain you a bit of a concept of fertilization. Every plant, every animal, if I understand the concept of sexual reproduction, every plant will be formed by the combination of chromosomes of 2 parents. Same like the animals also. So now if that concept is true, then he was every time having a question that what is going wrong? Why this plant? Why this generation plants? If now 100 plants were obtained, all 100 plants have that trait tall. Not a single plant is dwarf. But he was convinced that the factors of this parent definitely must be passing over to these plants. But why is it not expressing same here? He was feeling that the factors for wrinkleness definitely must be passing on to this. But why only this is getting expressed? Why only the round feature is getting expressed? Why the white feature is not expressed? Why the purple feature only expressed? That was his question mark. So from this concept, he wanted to find out a solution. So what he did, go ahead, he tried crossing now this plants again to obtain the next generation plant. The lifespan was short, so what he did, cross this plants again, the first generation plant, the round seeded ones, the tall ones, the purple flowered ones. And then now that he observed the F2 generation, now he observes purple flowered plants are definite, but now white flowered plants are also there, but never mind in small numbers. 200 plants agar hai, 100 plants agar hai, 50 plants agar hai, whatever the number is, we are not talking about number. We are only saying that whatever he got in the next generation. So ये हो गया first generation. I'm sorry, the parental generation इसको बोला जाता है. This is the parental generation. This is the first generation. This is the second generation. In the first generation, did he observe any white flowered plants? No. But he was very sure that this trait for whiteness must have passed on to this plant. But कोई तो कुछ reason होगा जिसकी वजह से that whiteness is not getting expressed. So what he tried? Let me cross the first generation plants and see now. So he crossed two first generation plants, and now in the next generation he gets to see that white plants to aaya hai now. White plants have come. How is it possible? Definitely this whiteness must have inherited. For some reason did not get expressed here and again gets expressed in this generation. So this was his basic core experiment. Now, is this concept, now that I talk about when two parents, one is having this trait and the other trait, the first generation offspring shows only one trait, not both. Is this concept, this was one of his laws that he stated later. He framed this as law of dominance. That is, when two parents are having contrasting trait, first generation will express only one, not both. Is this concept applicable in human? Definitely, very much. If you look at yourself and compare yourself character by character with your parents, you will always see you resemble your parents only by specific characters. You talk about your hair texture. If you talk about your hair texture, if your hair is wavy, either your mother or your father has that texture. You talk about your shape of the nose, either your mother or your father has that. Talk about the eye color, either your father, either your mother has that. So, the expression in you, combination of both the parents, expression in you is the dominant trait that is getting expressed. Now, I'd love to hear from you now, 2 or 3 instances. Tell me if you are able to understand what I'm speaking. Did you ever understand, if I talk about some features, tell me about yourself and compare it with your parents also, then you are very clear, I am able to express this trait, but my father has this, my mother has this. If you are clear about this, then you understand out of those 2 traits that they show, the one that you are expressing is the dominant one. Clear? For example, maybe your eye color is brown. Your mother's eye color is black. Your father's eye color is brown. But you are expressing what? Brownness, brown eye color. So are we able to now conclude whether brown is dominant or black is dominant? Yes. The trait which expresses in the first generation is always the dominant trait. Brown or black में से जो first generation में express होगा, that is always the dominant trait, and that has been found true in the human population also. Plants also, other animals also. Can we understand few characteristics? बता सकते हो अपने बारे में दो तीन? Straight hair. So now that you have the curly hair or that bit wavy texture of the hair, so are you able to understand कौन सा dominant hair texture है? Curly. Curly is always dominant over straight. Curly is always powerful over straight. एक और दो बताओ. Others, if you are able to know this.
My nose is like my mother. And my
so nose is like my father or mother. मतलब your nose.
It's like my mother, not my
father. So what do you understand? Your father has got a sharper nose or a blunt nose?
It's like a parrot. Like
sharper. Sharper. So
and my chin is like.
So now when you talk about, see, variable, there are so many terms for these characters. There are so many terms for these characters. The shape of the nose. If I talk about the traits for the shape of the nose, there are again another 14, 15 traits. So, एक दो example ऐसे net में देखना, then you will also understand. So, now that I'm talking about the sharp pointed, certain individuals we come across no sharp pointed and parrot shaped nose, and some will generally have the blunt ones or the comparatively even type of a nose. Even type of a nose is more dominant. That's why the even type of a nose we always come across more common in a population as compared to the sharp pointed or the curved shape of noses comparatively lesser. Then again, the most common ones, let me just speak about. I talk about the ear lobe. Did you come across the ear lobes that we have? Very few people will have the ear lobe attached. No? Did you ever come across anyone of it? Disconnected also. Now, disconnected is again a mutation. वो बहुत कम मिलता है. But some you will come. Most of us we have got the free. This को ear lobe बोलते हैं. And some will have straight attached. कभी देखा है? ये ear lobe इस तरह के lobe नहीं होता है. Just straight as if cut किसी ने cut किया हुआ ऐसा. Straight होता है. Then again, if I talk about the hairline, the pointed hairline, some. So based on if you look at yourself, pick up any 5 characters. Look at yourself. Look at your parents. Whatever you are expressing, that is a dominant feature always. In terms of blood groups, in terms of the hair texture, skin color, in terms of the shape of the eyes and the height and etc. You understand always. So the first concept that we are going to talk about would be the law of dominance. Now, abhi likhna hai how to write down. How are you supposed to write in your exam? This is an application that we talk about. Later we are going to understand some questions also. You will come across some questions that the skin color, based on the skin color, based on the eye color that already I gave you. What are the prominent eye colors in the human population? If the child is having this type of a eye color, what are the probable eye colors that the parents can have? When I talk about a child who is having blue eye color, can you tell me roughly what are the probable eye colors the parents can have?
Blue and blue. Blue and blue. Black.
I said, जो first generation offspring है, तो child है, उसका blue eye color है. तो blue होने से तो can this person who is having blue eye color, can this person have anything apart from this genotype? यही combination होना चाहिए. इसके अलावा और कोई combination हो सकता है? Not possible. यही homozygous condition में होना चाहिए. Now I want to find out parents का क्या होना चाहिए? हाँ, tell me now. Blue. चलो, I write one parent blue है and other side blue है. चलो, ये combination तो हो ही सकता है. और क्या?
Blue and black can be possible.
ऐसे possible होगा? ये combination possible है?
Yes.
Okay. ये combination possible है? Possible है ना? You know, this and this combination possible है ना? अच्छा, ये combination possible है? हाँ है ना?
brown हो जाएगा.
कैसे? The father is brown eye color, the mother is also brown eye color, the child is blue eye color. Possible है ना? During the process of fertilization, जरूरी नहीं है कि this and this only will come together. ये दो क्रोमोसोम भी एक साथ आ सकता है. Pairing of chromosome तो कुछ भी हो सकता है. After pairing के बाद, then the pair. अब जो pair of alleles बना, then the decision. Pairing of chromosome तो इसके साथ ये भी हो सकता है. You will learn all this thing. अब pairing of chromosome इसके साथ इसका जब हो जाएगा, then definitely the child. That's the reason why sometimes we come across this.
Is this possible like for my cousin sister?
7 generations.
No, like her father has green eyes and her mother has black eyes, but she has got blue eyes.
हाँ तो दोनों ही heterozygous parents हैं. दोनों ही heterozygous parents है, एक parent का blue and green combination है and the other parent has what you said black black and blue combination होगा. So that's why the blue and the blue she got. So there are various combinations, but ultimately the expression would be only one. Now we will complete only one law. Let us write. All of you will write exactly in this format. Now that the laws we write, no, there is always a specific format. Otherwise, जैसे maths में half a mark deduction होता है, here also for not writing the steps. Write exactly like this. Start from the left side of the page. Parent plants. This is how you should write. Parent plants. Then you come to the middle of the page. Parent plants. What to write? Let us write down the phenotype first. Phenotype कैसे लिखते हैं? In words. So I would write tall, cross in the middle, meaning breeding, and the other side dwarf. This is the phenotype. इसके नीचे genotype लिखना है. Capital T, small t and small t. Why do we write twice here? Because chromosomes are paired. It's a paired condition of the chromosome. That's why to write twice. लिखो. Next is gametes. What is the meaning of gametes to understand? A cell divides, उसके साथ pair of chromosome का division. Only that as of now. Pair of chromosome का जो division है, that is what you are supposed to understand. So see here, what I am showing you here is, this is a pair of chromosome that I draw. Something like this, a pair of chromosome. जैसे पहले भी हमने example लिया था. This is a pair of chromosome in the cells of this plant. So when this cell is undergoing division, what will happen? Two cells अगर बनेगा, so this pair of chromosomes split, and one here and the other here. ऐसे a concept to understand. So gamete formation जैसे ही we talk about, you should understand chromosomes are getting divided. Pair of chromosomes split हो जाना, उसको बोलेंगे gamete formation. But और भी concepts हैं, we will come to that later. So as of now, let us understand. So gametes को कैसे लिखा जाता है? Gametes को हमेशा encircle करके लिखा जाता है. Gametes को हमेशा encircle करके लिखेंगे. Gametes को हमेशा encircle करके लिखेंगे. Gametes को ही सिर्फ encircle करेंगे, not this plants, only gametes. Come to the F1 plants. F1 generation plants, मतलब first generation plants. How to get the first generation plants? Fertilization of this and this. I show only one set because it is the same for the other set also. Pair of chromosome क्या बनेगा this way? Yes, correct है ना? This chromosome coming together. मतलब what does this mean? One chromosome with this, the other chromosome with this. This is just for understanding. तो pair of chromosome अभी ऐसे बन गया. What is the phenotype? The phenotype is hybrid tall. इसको hybrid क्यों बोलेंगे? Because it is a combination of two alleles, two parents. It is a combination of two alleles, two parents. फटाफट write down the statement of the law. This type of questions, 3 marks. State the law, explain with the help of an example. Example you may choose or the question will be there. लिखो statement of the law. Out of a pair of contrasting alleles. Out of a pair of contrasting alleles. Contrasting मतलब opposite. Out of a pair of contrasting alleles in the F1 generation plants. Out of a pair of contrasting alleles in the F1 generation plants. The allele or trait that expresses is the dominant allele. The allele or trait that expresses is the dominant allele or dominant trait. आया समझ में? Go through once at home And the next class we will continue with this concept. Okay? Thank you.
Anything you want to
जल्दी से वेलकम बोल दिया भाई